I feel like this New York DLC that they did for Division 2 is their way of trying to get people to move on from Division 1. They're like, oh, you guys like New York? All right, we'll bring it over to the DC game. Gosh, you guys always want New York all the time. I mean, we would have avoided all this shit if you would have just put the DC one to be an expansion to the first game. I'm just saying, especially with live service games like this, like an expansion process, similar to what like World of Warcraft has been doing for the past like 70 years. You know, like it feels like it's been that long. Like World of Warcraft, like I think they're coming out with a new expansion like pretty soon too. Like I thought I heard something about that. I don't play that game, but it's pretty impressive the amount of like work they've done to that game over time, you know? Whereas like Ubisoft games or like EA games or any of these big AAA developers, companies, whatever you want to call them, they always do this thing where they feel like they need to slap like a 2 and a 3 at on the box in order for people to buy it or something. Like and yeah, that's probably true. Because there's a lot of people that are easily like fooled by that. They'll see, oh, sequel, so it has to be like dramatically better than the last game, right? And that's usually how people's brains work. They immediately think it's gonna be good. Like, look at that stupid ass fucking Matrix movie that they made, that brand new one. Like, I already knew I was gonna be disappointed going into it, but I didn't realize it was gonna be that bad. Like, it was fucking terrible. It was easily the worst. Like, they shouldn't have rebooted that game, that movie. I mean, looking at The Division as a game, it's a really cool concept. I like the amount of detail driven in, like, drawn into the world and stuff. Like, they did a really good job with this game. The looter shooter aspects are actually pretty nice. I don't care for the RNG a whole lot, but they definitely improved the RNG over the first game, so that's something, you know? They made improvements. But the problem with it is like I don't really care for DC as a state. Like, I'm not from there, and I don't really care about it anyway. Like, so I would never like at any point say like, oh man, I need to go to DC and see the White House. Like, it looks so fucking cool. Like, I don't know. Like, there's nothing cool about the White House. I just like I love New York and I want to play the first game, but the first game, you know, there's a lot of features that they didn't take care of or fix, and instead they did it on the second game instead of just patching the first game. And I feel like that's where this game kind of like failed for me, is like just knowing what the first game could have been, but it ended up not being that because the developers just kind of gave up on it because it didn't sell well or whatever, you know, because that's usually the thing that they use all the time whenever a game is going to be replaced with something else, is they blame it on the sales numbers. That's why, like, yesterday when I was talking about No Man's Sky, and like I was talking about how impressive that game is, and that game flopped really hard when it first came out. Like, it was a disaster when it first came out, and I bought it anyway because I was hyped too. I was super excited about it, like flying in space and all that shit. But like, when it bombed so hard that I thought they were just gonna abandon it, just like every other game does, you know, like, or every developer, I would say. But like, it didn't happen. No, who's shooting at me? It didn't happen. Like, they actually like fixed the game, and then they also added so much more to it that it just made it like endless possibilities of shit. Like, that's the only game that I feel like has ever reached its full potential, you know, especially if it's a live service game. Like, dude, how are you gonna make a live service game like The Division and then not fucking update it, you know? Like, imagine if Hello Games was in charge of The Division. Like, imagine how impressive this game would be right now if it was just like a hardcore group of people that just sat down and worked on that shit and started updating and updating and updating. Like, whoa, this game would be so goddamn impressive with so much content that people would like flock to this game. Like, this game will be immensely popular if they actually updated it. But nope. They're working on, what is it, the Heartland game now? Because, of course, we need another fucking live service game. And this time, they're probably going to do this whole free-to-play bullshit where they could say, oh yeah, it's free, just come on in and play it, just come on in. And and then it lands up being Genshin Impact with fucking crazy loot boxes and like roll of the dice fucking loot chance. Like, I mean, this game already proves how much of a fucking roll of the dice even loot is. So imagine having like a bunch of like really powerful weapon types, or even like really cool looking skins just locked under like just mountains of loot boxes. And Ubisoft is like, they never advance with their times, man. Like they truly think they're gonna get away with throwing loot boxes in games still. Like it's in 2022, you know, and they're still trying to do this shit. The days of Genshin Impact are over, man. There's not a whole lot of people that are gonna fall for that trick anymore, you know, like especially like people that have self-respect will definitely like choose another option, you know, like they would do something else. So yeah, I'm always thinking about the potential of the Division series and how cool it would have been. Like, imagine like this game having like endless content. Like if they treated it like No Man's Sky, and they updated the crap out of this game. Imagine this game covering the entire United States. So every time a major expansion came out, it's a new state. You know, like it's like, oh, we're going to DC, all right, from New York. And then, oh, now we're going to Florida. Oh, now we're going to fucking like Louisiana or something. You know, like it could just keep going and going and going and going forever. You know, like that would have been incredibly impressive. But nope, we will never see something like that. You know, and I think that the only time that it may be possible if the game did well is that Heartlands game. If the Heartlands game does well, then maybe it might be able to do that. But I feel like the damage is already done. Like, how are you gonna make like 2 other Division games and then not like fix them? You know, so like it's like they're slowly drip feeding content, and then on top of that, like they're not fixing the core issues of what the community wants, you know, and things like that. Like instead, all they do is just add shit that, you know, it's almost like nostalgia. You know, you add this New York DLC as a nostalgia thing just so you can be like, oh yeah, maybe I should buy it now. Maybe I should buy that expansion. And I'm tired of that shit, man. I just feel like they're just taking advantage of people. That's all they do.